Good morning, everyone. Dr. Jen from Wellness in 2 Words. I appreciate you taking time to listen to this video. I really appreciate the response to the prior video, and I did that to be informative. I want people to kind of understand the emerging information that we have on this virus. And if you go on the internet, you can certainly go down a rabbit hole about that. I would like to try to put some links in here for it, but unfortunately some of those Facebook seems to label as potential spam and I don't want to be put in Facebook jail because I want this information to get out there. So I just want to kind of give a different flavor for today's Wellness in 2 Words video. The 2-word phrase today is stay home. And I could drop a bunch of knowledge and science on you again about what we know about this, about the fact that the people who are asymptomatic carriers who don't even have an awareness that they are having a high viral load and shedding it to other people, that they're asymptomatic, they're responsible for 80% of the cases of transmission in the community. What we find out right now is that detection and testing are limiting our actual understanding of how widespread this is. I can't tell you how many people have it because if not everyone is able to have a test for it, we don't know where it is and where it isn't. So understand that. Regardless of the limitations of testing, it's not about testing. I want everybody not to get derailed and sidetracked with that because this is not a political problem, okay? This is an epidemiologic problem. This virus is not a Democrat. This virus is not a Republican. It's not an independent like me. It doesn't care. It has one job, and that is to reproduce among the human population now. It doesn't care about anything else. It cares about math. And what we know about its transmission is for every 1 infected person, the R naught value, which is its ability to reproduce and spread among the general population, is around 2.2 to 2.5. That is why every outlet that you're seeing is saying to stay home. The tighter your cluster, the less the potential for transmission. It doesn't get any plainer than that. So everyone who is in an industry that's dependent on person-to-person contact, trust me, these decisions are not being made lightly. They understand the economic fallout of it. And if anyone is going to turn around and say, well, I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm immune, we're not finding out that that is the case. There are people who are younger who are getting serious infections with it. So you can't just say it's going to be one generation that's going to bear the brunt of this because last I checked, it's becoming more widespread, which means more people are going to suffer needlessly. This virus doesn't care. It cares about math and it cares about reproduction. You have the power as a citizen to slow that down, period. It's simple. It's hard. I've had that conversation with my kids this week. They wanted to go see their cousin. They have friends in the backyard. And I said, listen, this is not about you. This is not about you. This is short-term pain for long-term gain. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And I get it. We are, oh my gosh, we're so blessed to be in such a tightly knit community of interactive parents and children and church. And I miss everyone so much right now because we're finding ourselves so isolated in our contact. And I'm blessed to have so many of these people in my life. But what I understand is that I have to do a hard thing right now to keep them safe. Okay? Because we're finding out now, I looked at a graph and I'll try to put some screenshots underneath here without having to do the links so that Facebook doesn't like mess up the algorithm and block me. What we're finding out now is that this is the 3rd deadliest of the top 10 deadly pandemics. And we're talking about just total body count. So again, this is exponential math, which we as human beings have a really hard time wrapping our heads around. And we can't see 2 weeks ahead because we see what's in front of us. It's very short-sighted. So what we need to understand is doing the hard thing is going to be the key to getting this under control. Let me explain what herd immunity is. So the whole idea is if you have a novel virus that the population has never seen, no one has immunity to it. They've never been exposed. They're going to have to develop that immunity, okay? We all know this, fine. We know this is brand new, uncharted territory. Humans have never seen this virus, this particular strain, which has the ability to mutate before. So what we have to have is people in the population who develop immunity to it to slow down its transmission as well. The solution is not let's get around everybody and let's all get like chickenpox. That's not, my gosh, that's not the solution because of its reproductive potential. This is going to have to play out over time. The more people who are gradually exposed to this virus, because the area under that curve, flatten the curve, is the same. The number of people on the planet is the same. It's a question of how fast it's going to spread as to whether or not we can handle it. So when you look at transmission of this, slowing down its transmission is key. Because more people develop immunity, and when they develop immunity, if they get re-exposed to it, they're not going to shed virus again, number one. So that means there are fewer people in the community that are infectious because their body got it under control really quick. So they're not shedding it to someone else. Versus right now, when your body doesn't really have any immunity to it, you're walking around functional, you're infectious, you're asymptomatic, you're giving this virus to other people because you're not adherent to the stay home rule. Then there are all these other people who also don't have immunity to it, and they can't slow down their transmission of it because they've never seen it before. Versus like the flu, keep in mind there's some proteins that are essentially consistent with the flu, which is what they try to model with the vaccine. But our bodies kind of know what to do with that because they're like, wait a second, I've seen this before, and they get it under control a little faster than they normally would. Some people, not so lucky, I get it. But there is still some element. Take measles, for example. We have some herd immunity. We've been vaccinated against it. So if I were to see somebody with measles right now in the ER because they aren't vaccinated, I'm going to have some immunity to that my body's going to go, oh, hold on a second. We got to get this under control. Which means when I see people around me, I'm not shedding a bunch of virus because my body nipped it in the bud. That's what herd immunity is. We don't have that right now. This is a completely brand new virus. That's what people need to understand. That's why isolation, as tightly isolating yourself as possible, is key. Period. It doesn't get any plainer than that. Let's see. So what you also need to understand right now, in our country, healthcare professionals don't have the adequate protective gear right now to protect themselves. There was a piece about that with Heather Hammersmith, who's in an ER doc group where she's talking about that. So it has to be reserved for healthcare professionals. Here are the reasons why. If we are not wearing adequate PPE, we could get sick. There are already 2 ER physicians on ventilators because of this. There have been physicians in other countries who are deceased from this. If we get sick, we can't take care of other people. We can't take care of you if you get sick, and you don't know if you're going to get sick. You need to think about that. We also, if we don't have adequate protective gear, we could shed it to other people who are coming in for treatment. So if you weren't sick with it before or exposed to it before, we could give it to you because we don't have adequate protective gear. So I am going to put one link down here for you to contact your Congress people to say, okay, hey, you need to ensure that healthcare workers have adequate protective gear. Please click on that link if you can. There's evidence this is airborne transmission. So the droplet precautions are totally different than airborne. Airborne means if there are small enough molecules, small enough, if it gets on a dust particle, if it gets on anything small enough, it can drift through the air, which means you walk in an elevator, somebody in there who's COVID positive, who's asymptomatic, was breathing on an elevator, and you walk in the elevator, and now you've been exposed. You may have a mild case, you may have a severe case. You're not going to know how your body's going to respond to this. Statistics are statistics, but there are always outliers to statistics, which is why you need to stay home if at all possible, because it can linger in the air up to 3 hours. We know that alcohol kills it. We know that dilute bleach kills it. Everything else is probably a little less effective. So what you need to understand is if it's in the air, you don't need to be in tight enclosed spaces, and you don't need to be around other people who are close to you and breathing. So 6 feet for droplet, but I would say even go further, isolate yourself as far as possible. if you can. And we're basically just sticking with our own little nucleus of people and very, very essential errands. Okay, so my next advice to you is plan ahead. This isn't about toilet paper. It's not about hoarding. Our supply chains, they're going to try to keep those as consistent as they can. I get that, but you also have to understand that curtailing this and containing this now is important for downstream supply chain issues. So we will see shortages if more and more people get sick. So if you think that, oh, well, I've got enough toilet paper, I can last 2 months, you're not understanding the problem. You need to look past that and say, the more people we keep healthy, the more people we can keep in our workforce, the more we can prevent problems down the road. One domino falls, the next domino falls, they all start to fall. So this is why I'm doing this video, to tell you it is important to do this hard thing now so that we prevent more collateral damage later in every sphere of human existence. Healthcare, economic, childcare, school, education, all of these things, restaurant business, all of them are going to be impacted. They already have been. The question is how deep and how far, how wide. That is within your control, in case you did not know that. And I know this sounds like the harshest tone. I think as a physician, I'm used to people not listening to me. They blow me off all the time, especially probably because I'm female. I get it. You can take my advice, you can leave it. But I think in this circumstance, all the healthcare providers are unified in what we are telling you, which means you need to pay attention. Plain and simple. So hunker down, stay with your people, stay inside. Use this time to kind of reconnect with your families, which as much research as I've been doing on this, I haven't been really reconnecting with my family as much as I should, but I really have enjoyed the ingenuity and the humor and the things that come through on Facebook. What's extremely distressing, however, is people who are perpetuating nonsense, saying, oh, it's no worse than a sore throat or a cold. What you fail to understand is those people are the asymptomatic carriers who think it's no big deal, and they will continue to infect other people thinking it's no big deal. Hence the problem. For those who are separated from loved ones, I can't even wrap my head around that. I can't imagine. I've stepped away from the ER for a while, and I don't know how much longer that will be the case. If things got truly bad, they would conscript physicians potentially, which and then also nurses. So one thing you need to understand, what you do impacts me. So let's think about that for a second. I'm a physician. My husband's an ER nurse. We've both stepped away from the ER after putting about 20 years of service into it and decided to do hospice, and we love hospice. It's been really a good transition. However, if we were to get conscripted, and my husband and we both get an exposure and we both get sick, where does that leave our family? Just think about that for a second. Containing this virus and doing the hard things helps me. And you've never met me and you've never seen me before. But I want you to think about the ripple effect of this. Use technology to your advantage, okay? I am privileged to be part of an ER doctor group that is 22,000 strong. We are actively exchanging information. It's going to be helpful for me when I do this upcoming shift on Friday. I am so grateful that we have technology to do real-time communication about something that is completely uncharted territory. So use technology to your advantage in your business. Like if you're in a community and you need your small business to be supported, use technology to buy e-gift cards, gift certificates, use it to stay connected with people. Our church is gonna probably start like an online, like a Zoom Bible study for the kids because we couldn't do movie night the other night. And they were like, that's brilliant, that's a great idea. We are so connected that we can exchange the in-person for a virtual connection for a while, and then just really use that as an opportunity to support the businesses that totally depend on face-to-face interaction. Find some way to support them if you can. And then also check on your seniors. I can't imagine having a family member that I would be isolated from. Some of the patients who are in facilities who really, really depend on their family members to come and help them. This is a huge tragedy because a lot of facilities necessarily are limiting visitation with families, and that's to prevent widespread transmission. And it's painful and it's hard on them. It's heartbreaking, but it's absolutely necessary if we're going to get this contained and mitigated and under control. Let's see. I'm trying to think what else little notes I had. I wrote in the middle of the night. So many notes. Okay, so one thing that people are constantly, I think, latching onto is mortality rate. Oh, mortality rate's not so bad. Oh, it's in Italy, it's 8%. It's over there. It's not any big deal. What you have to understand, there is a lag time. You look at the real-time graphs, understand that detection is about 5 days behind, because the confirmed positives are the ones that have positive tests, and the testing is to the point where there's still a delay in terms of you get swabbed, and then, and granted, we don't even have any drive-through stations yet in Tennessee for people to do that on. But even if you were to get swabbed, there's the delay time in sending it to the lab, and then the lab has to test it, and even private labs are to get in, and then it has to be reported and then entered into the database. So those numbers aren't real. They're about 5 days behind, just so you know. So don't get a false sense of reassurance thinking it's okay, because keep in mind, this is like every 3 to 4 days, you're gonna see a doubling. So we're not flattening the curve like we need to be. And that information will start to trickle in the next 1 to 2 weeks, and it will, it'll be staggering. So you need to understand what we do now is going to prevent downstream problems 2 weeks from now. What we need to understand is the case fatality rate. So case fatality rate depends on the number of people who die from the disease, not the percentage. Okay, so case fatality rate is going to be, say you have this number and you know that mortality is such and such percent. The case fatality rate is what is going to impact our current healthcare system and what we can accommodate. And if that gets to a certain number of people, there will not be enough things to care for you. So I know in my prior videos, like, yes, if you have a fever, cough, or shortness of breath, go to the ER. They're obviously amending that statement to say, no, if you have fever or cough, stay home. You need to isolate yourself and self-quarantine. And things are going to get real, because I don't know if you've seen the situation in Kentucky where deputies were forcing a patient to stay home who was COVID positive, who was ignoring the quarantine instructions. So the more we do on our own, the more the right things we do on our own, the less government's going to have to make those choices for us. I want you to really think about that. That's an important concept. I would rather do the right thing and not have to have the government involved in making me do what I should be doing. Let's see. So we're going to have to learn to cooperate. We're going to have to learn to collaborate. We're going to have to learn to do all these things that we already know how to do. We're just going to have to do them better. And we can do this. We can do the hard things. My friend Edie has a video about how we can do the hard things. I don't want people to lose heart when I have a video like this where I talk about really scary subjects. But I feel like information is power, and that is how we are going to share and get this under control. And when people say it's going to disproportionately hit seniors, I get that. And I know what you're thinking. Well, the Walmart greeter, who needs a Walmart greeter? And I know that sounds really harsh, right? That's not what this is about. There are grandparents who are raising their grandkids because their children are on drugs. There are people who are older, who are vital to so many things that we do. They're not a disposable generation. I think that's the worst concept I've heard out of this whole thing. I mean, that's number one, heartless. Number two, completely short-sighted. We need seniors. We need them for a lot of things. But to just be like, yeah, it's no big deal if we lose a few of them. That's not how this is going to play out. And that's what people don't understand. Okay, I feel like I've just delivered a lecture, and I didn't want that to be about this, but I think I can try to track some science and some graphs for you, and that's great. I can do that from a physician standpoint, but from a physician standpoint, I also need you to understand this is not going to work unless everybody buys in, and if everybody does what they need to do. And I had great goals for my wellness website. If you go to my website right now, there's nothing on it, because this spring I was going to be like, ooh, let's talk about wellness. Let's talk about advice for wellness. It's all very important. What you eat is important. Eat less sugar, because that impacts your immune function. Eat more fat, because it helps generate more antioxidants in your body to help you fight infection. And that might have some implication in cytokine storm. We don't know. There's absolutely no evidence right now because this is all new territory. But I would say take your vitamins, take your supplements. For me, I'm using oils, vitamins, supplements, all the things that I possibly can to mitigate any exposure I might have, because staying well is important. But I have plans for a website, and hopefully that will still continue. But right now, this video is about the 2-word phrase for the day, for the week, for the month. Stay home. I'm going to sign off with much love, okay? You guys take care, and hopefully I'll be able to do more helpful videos soon. Okay, thanks.